Nazir, Ritvik, let's give some more time for everyone to join. I think we will start. Maybe once people join, we can further increase. So I'm starting the streaming. Okay, Manya. So this session is basically on queries and any specific um discussions that you want to bring up. We don't have any knowledge. This is not a knowledge sharing session, at least for this week. If Wednesday sessions are usually for query resolution or any questions, anything you want to highlight from a discourse perspective or something you would like to suggest or any, it's more of a query discussion. And keeping the floor open, any specific questions you would like to begin with? Is there anybody having any questions, any queries?
So for project two,
Yes,
like in which we have to basically answer the graded assignment questions,
correct.
is the like is the function calling approach going to be more appropriate?
Uh, yes,
Because some people
yeah, go ahead.
like some people were saying that if we have basically we either have the answers or if we solve the GS again, uh, and we basically have a like a key value thing. And we just identify which question they are asking, and if the same set of questions are going to be asked, right, we could just identify that and then give response accordingly.
See, yeah, there is, let's say, problem or how we solve specific problems. So I would say the most hardest approach would be to go have functional calls for these 50 questions. But let's say, um, ideally, from the submission point, we are looking at how you can deploy an LLM agent to solve the answer. So essentially, bringing back, so there is a way, yes, obviously you can uh, put it as like function calls for 50 questions and then keep it in a different way, but we are still thinking of other options, like what different ways. There are other multiple ways you can have a solution. So the best approach would be basically LLM based auto coding solution. Like LLM, you ask a question to the LLM is able to provide you answer. So uh, that would be one of the best solutions or approach how we can handle it. Another thing is basically the one which we have, like function calls like 50, which is more of a harder effort that you will have to deploy and then come back on it.
Okay, sir. So more like feeding whatever errors or something comes back to the LLM and then like with the prompt engineering approach.
That's correct. So we can go creative with how we want to solve this problem. Maybe we are just waiting for few more questions and approaches which you would want to recommend. Like, let's say, uh, if you have some work on or suggestions like as you mentioned 50 function calls or different options. Keep the discourse post open. We wanted to get your inputs as well on how you wanted to solve this problem, and maybe in a couple of days we will again provide some more clarity on what could be a best approach and whether you would like to proceed with that kind of scenario. So right now, think this as more like a problem, the a statement which you have, and there are multiple ways to solve this problem, and that's what we exactly tell across the different segments in tools and data science. To solve a problem, understand the problem, and develop the logic, and then finally deploy the solution. And there is no one single way as a right way. There are multiple ways by which we can do it. Yeah, and I see Premdeep raising the hand. Yes, Premdeep.
Sir, I have a question regarding project 2.
Yes.
So we have to create an endpoint that accept a post request for a question, and there can be a file attachment. So unlike project 1,
Mm-hmm.
where we have where uh, API key for OpenAI is also provided, but in project 2 there will be only question and optional attachment. So what if we have to use the uh, API token given by the IIT, and what if the $2 limit is crossed and during testing it failed? So how to tackle this?
Okay, this is with respect to tokenization and the credit limit which we have with the current keys, right? That's a valid question. We will check back with the team. I think right now it should be $2 per month on the query. But yeah, I understand the situation here. So give us a day. We should be able to give you feedback on discourse regarding that scenario.
Because if in the post request uh, uh, during testing they also send the API key, so then there will be no problem.
Mm-hmm. No, no. You mean you're asking that as a question or trying to?
No, I am saying that uh, in project 2 during testing our API token will be used. So if $2 is crossed, so during testing evaluation the results can fail. I'm saying this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we get that point. That shouldn't be a challenge, but anyways, we'll confirm that over discourse in a day regarding the API calls that needs to go.
Okay.
Mhm.
And another thing to ask regarding project 1,
Yes.
uh, that TA has said that the solution for project 1 is by the Anand sir is almost 150 lines code, and he said that he will show us the solution code and how it works. So when will it happen?
Yeah, it should happen sometime in a week or so. We are just waiting for Anand's timeline, like his availability, and schedule a call. We should have that call sooner.
Okay.
It will be notified well in advance on both the mail notification as well as in discourse and in all channels.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other specific questions? Any comments on the ROE? How did you feel about the ROE?
My computer hanged, so I do not know what to say.
Hmm. Computer hang. So, Ritvik, did you join the call that other day? Like the last minute, you were unable to send the right?
Hmm.
Understood. You
So
were
I
you
didn't
had an
even
issue.
join the call. I panicked.
Yeah,
My
you had an issue with the ISP, right?
pardon?
You had an issue with your internet service provider.
No, no, my computer hanged. I was working for like 20, 24 hours continuously. My computer had lot of tabs open, everything, and it hanged.
But you made your submissions, right?
No, sir, I was not able to because everything was very slow. But then I fixed it later. But then obviously later we cannot. I'll probably repeat TDS if necessary.
Yeah, that is like a operational challenge. Like we recommend everyone to have submitted at regular intervals. Like have your submission submitted in regular, even if you finish a couple of questions, have like submissions and intermediate interval, so that we will have your submissions. We even had few submissions where they had higher marks, and then while testing out or some other technical issue, uh, uh, they were unable to fill in their marks it is. But we have a track of all the submissions, successful submissions, and we have their max marks, like what they have scored. So that way, as long as if you have submitted whatever you have worked out in that 45 minutes, that should be available. And I think, okay, well, this is unfortunate, we couldn't help you on that part. And we had that Google Meet call where we were able to address each and every issue as early as possible. And I mean, the entire crew was available in that Gmeet call to address any specific technical issues, anything from a portal perspective or from a system perspective. But yeah, with respect to maybe you should, it's, I mean, as a general note, best recommendation is if you have something critical, try to always restart your system, keep your system in a boot mode, so that it is fresh and not exhausted, so that it don't doesn't hang at critical
I
time.
think so. The main problem was that I was exhausted, so I did not take care of the basic sanitary things like cleaning up cache in the computer, setting up things properly.
Understood.
So that is why so I hanged in some way, and then the computer hanged. Then I panicked.
uh, I mean, it's all learning. There are lots to learn as we go in. In real world scenario, we'll have lots and lots of scenarios such that you'll work in a specific Excel file with all these formulas put in, but essentially save it as CSV, and then you will lose
But
all
sir,
the.
one thing I'll just say that the tools I've learned now, like in terms of data wrangler and everything, they are so useful that I'm being able to at least in the actual work which I do, I'm being able to do things in 5 to 10 minutes, which would otherwise take 4 to 5 hours. Because like in terms of processing error logs and everything, it is very helpful.
Good to hear that. Yeah, I see Rishit raising up the hand. Yes, Rishit.
Yes, sir. I want to ask. I just want to ask that in the first question, it was some HTTP link, and it worked for the first time, but I closed the tab on the Google. So the next time I clicked on check, it doesn't consider that, and it eventually went wrong. So is there something I can do about that? Because I posted the link and saved it, but the correct is not there. It's actually invalid.
No. So if I understand it right, so this is with respect to ROE, right? ROE question
Yeah,
number one.
yeah, correct. ROE question number one. Yeah.
Okay, so you had submitted an answer and it was correct, and eventually when you changed or re
No, just I close the tab where I have to open the link for the successful HTTP link.
mhm,
And when I just closed that and went to other questions just for checking, just for the sake of checking,
mhm.
and it just get lost.
Mm, okay, you mean were you able to successfully submit the answer? No.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
just saved the answer
Mhm.
along with the link.
I think as long as you have saved the submitted the answer, that will be taken care of.
Yeah, works, works,
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we have all the submissions which have individual student has entered. So that shouldn't be a challenge from our end. Yeah,
Sure, sir. Thank you so much.
yeah. As long as you have submitted, that's the reason why we keep on um, exaggerating, even telling you make sure that you always submit your answers, even if you finish one or two questions, so that you have the submissions ready from this kind of a client server setup. Always it's better to have your footprints put in the server. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I've saved it. So I'll consider in case of any issue, I'll write it in the discrepancy form.
Exactly, yes, you can write in description form. We'll have all the records from your submissions, and then we can have a cross discussion on that. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. And before that, I see one Ishan, in project 2, do we need the result to be exact answers of GAs, or can there be a different file that may be used while evaluation? Data scraping questions in GAs have specific fields attached to them. Maybe Ishan, can you explain this? I don't think I get it completely. Oh, if I understand, okay, okay. So if your question is about whether so all the GAs have been randomized. So now the question is if whether whatever answers you got is exactly how you wanted the.
Sir, I think he wants to say that, for example, in a question, we have to do some computation on a file name ABC. So I think he's saying that the file name will be same or the file name will be different, that XYZ.
No, as long as it is mentioned as ABC, you will have that specific format to be used. So consider this as, let's say you have unique file names or unique records in two different files. So in that case, you'll have two different files to be used, and then obviously you'll have these file names will be fixed. I mean, when I say file names, those file names can go as always as parameters. So
We can ask LLM for the file names and we can put that in the arguments of the function.
ideally, yes, yes. Those can be parameterized exactly all. So whenever you find something which is more of an object, so there are logic and objects that go into logic. So as long as the logic is accurate, the objects can pass on as parameters, and then it can run through the logic. So the logic should be sound here. That's the ideal way. Yeah, I hope I answered that. Ishan, if you have further questions, you can still message. Yes, Premdeep.
Sir, what will be the agenda of today's session?
No, today's session is query session. We it's
Okay.
yeah, it's more like trying to understand what any is there any queries that you want to get addressed? Is there anything which you want to discuss about? Um, if it's a knowledge session, we'll mention it earlier. What is going to get covered here? This is more like a query
Okay.
session. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Any other queries, questions? See, ideally, there are a couple of things which we are still working on with respect to when I say project two. That, as I mentioned, there are multiple creative ways how we can resolve this, and I believe we will also notify. The idea here is definitely the key goal here is to get exposed to solving any kind of problem that comes in future, as well as to learn and how to code in collaboration. So basically, we you can even think about how you want to collaborate and then work around. There are different approaches which we can handle.
Sir, another thing to ask.
Hmm.
I remember some questions have images in them where we have to do some computation on the images,
Correct.
some manipulations. So, will the images will be provided as attachments in the post request or as a base 64 encoded format?
So I think in our segments, most of them are embedded as either URL or JSON. I mean JPEG objects. So you can define that in the specific way that is available. Like uh, I believe it was in JPEG, right? The specific image file as an object within the JSON or the portal.
No, I am not asking about the image format like it is
Mhm.
JPEG or PNG. I am asking that if it will be, if in the post request it will be as an attachment, as the second argument is for attachment files as an attachment, or in the question itself it will be given as a base 64 encoding the image.
I don't get that clearly. So, can you tell me which question you are asking about? Maybe I can check.
I
Is it GA?
it Yes, it is GA. I think it is um, GA 2 or GA 3 where we have to do some computations. I think we have to compress the image. There is an
Correct.
image given. We have to save the image and do some compression on the image and then encode the image in the base 64, and then
Oh, okay, okay,
the
okay.
code we have to
Upload the
submit
compressed image. Correct. You have to upload the compressed image, right?
as an base 64 encoding.
Yeah, I think yeah. So, what is the challenge you think you'll have? I mean, whether that goes as a post request, as a file, or as a web URL. That's is that the question?
No, I am asking that in the post request there are two parameters. One is question that will be required, and another is optional that will be a file attachment. So let's say the question is uh, from the GL like compress this image or do some manipulation, and the image data can be provided in the question itself as a base 64 encoding, or secondly it can be provided as the second argument in the post request, that is as an file attachment.
Usually, file works as a general
Mm.
approach. Generally, file works, and the usual format is binary. I mean, the binary file type within the specific parameter. But the can you again repeat the first option where along with the post request you are sending up the image as a base encoded base 64 encoded file format.
Yes, the image is encoded as a base 64 string and it is given in the question itself. So no attachment has to be sent in a post request.
Okay. Um, okay. So fine. I think maybe I just put this as a part of discussion thread. We'll get back to you on that. Maybe this gives a rings a bell on evaluation script as well. So we will let you know on checking out with the evaluation script.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Uh, okay. So I see a couple of things. In some questions, some images or answers. Do we have to return these image? Okay. I think this is what we discussed now. Work on questions only which returns. No. Okay. We have to work on every all type of questions, not just image string type questions. It's both string and images, and I think now we discussed about how we can have different ways of sharing the image with a post. Yeah, and going back to the next question, sorry, I mean, going back, so there is no restriction with the type of answer. The LLM application should be able to sufficiently handle all the set of different types of questions. And I see one more chat. Sandhya, project 2 has already been released, and it's released 2 days back, and we have a deadline of 31st March, if I'm not wrong. One second. Yeah, 31st March will end of day IST will be the project due. Yes, Premdeep.
So there are some questions. For example, in GA, there is a question related to GitHub, and there is also a question related to GitHub in, I think, in deployment module. In all these questions, we have to create a Git repo, and then we have to um, in a deployment we have to create some GitHub actions, and so these things, how can we do these things, because we have to because I think we have to do this manually, like creating the uh, GitHub repo in the GitHub and then creating GitHub actions.
Okay, so um, you would have worked with Git commands, right?
Yes.
And you would also work with Bash commands where you can make a directory, establish Git pull, establish Git repo build. So uh, not so essentially it doesn't mean that you would always need everything to be done manually. There are multiple options of command line interrupts where you can able to run almost all commands of Git within a command.
Yes, I can do Git init, and but these things will be in the local Git. So for GitHub, I know they provide a command line interface.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
GitHub provides a command line interface, but using that, the GitHub repo can be created, but creating GitHub actions using that can be challenging. I don't know it.
Why just create that dot git thing? That folder you have to create, na? Yes.
But we have also to create a GitHub repo that will be local.
Okay.
We have to create a GitHub repo, most probably a public GitHub repo. And uh, in the questions, I know we have to also then give the raw, raw GitHub URL file URL.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let me take one moment quickly, just 1 minute. I would recommend you to also check with CLI GitHub manual. There are ways to create both GitHub repos in remote and as well as in local. So I'm just sharing the details in the chat window. So CLI GitHub.com and both in terms of different ways by which you would like to create a repo.
Okay, I'm checking that.
So there are different ways. GH repo create. There are multiple ways by which you can still create a public repo and initialize them. Check this manual. That should give you sufficient details on how you can handle entire operations of Git within a command line. Mhm. Okay. Any other queries?
So for this GitHub thing, we'll have to like if the LLM has to do it automatically, do we have to like give our token to it or as well?
You can always have user authentication. So
Okay, okay.
the command line has gh repo create. There are different command line options using which you can essentially control whatever you're working on with a GUI interface. So if it's an LLM, again, what I currently say is something which comes immediately out of my mind, but there are different ways to handle it. One item would be like have a auth login as environment variables and pass it on to the LLM so that it can create under your username and account, and it holds as a repository within your account.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Sir, in GA1, there is a question
Mhm.
where we have to use dev tools. Uh, in the question is hidden. There are some elements hidden in the question,
Mhm.
and we have to use dev tools to find those elements. So, how the questions, how this question will be passed through the post request? Because the question will be in the text, in plain text format in the post request. So how will be done?
Uh, See, is it so? Which you're mentioning is when you said GA1. Uh,
Mm. DevTools question 6. Use DevTools.
One second. Just okay. Question number 6. Use dev tools. Uh-huh. Okay. Um, so this is Just repeating the question. So here you're okay. Here you're using browser dev tools, right? Okay. I still remember there are again different CLI tools here.
I want to know that how the questions will be passed, because here it is using JavaScript to hide the question, but in the post request, matlab, how the question will be passed actually.
That's a good question. And let me, yeah, let me come back on this. I'll just take a couple of minutes to see that. One second. So this question. I'll come back to this again within 10 minutes, just trying to figure out the CLI options for the specific dev tool, Chrome dev tools. I'll come back on this. Meanwhile, I see that Ishan in GFI there is a task which can only be done by external software like OpenRefine. Can you explain how you can incorporate these modifications? See, from a tooling perspective, uh, OpenRefine, if you think OpenRefine, entire OpenRefine is again programmatically handled. The most effective operation would be entity resolution by clustering algorithms. So if I'll just repeat that again. So there are essentially any kind of data cleaning process which happen in OpenRefine is definitely possible with Python. And on top of that, some of the clustering algorithms which they use with respect to connecting similar words, everything comes under the same cosine similarity, and the basic logic and math is universal. So cosine similarity gives like unified words in a different way, whereas clustering algorithm will try to cluster and put all the different vectors into a single cluster and then try to modify that towards the centroid of the cluster, which is the ideal value. There are multiple libraries in Python which you can use. There is Spacey, there is NLTK, and yeah, NLTK, and there are additionally entity resolution is again a predominant topic, especially in finance industry, where they use similar techniques to identify multiple shell accounts which have slightly varying names like limited, LTD. So entity resolution is the key, and if entity resolution is a challenge, there are n number of libraries in Python that can handle it the same way like how OpenRefine is doing. And with Excel tasks, I mean, in the ROE live sessions, we were explaining on how anything that can be done in Excel is definitely possible in Python. There is no single option that is available only in Excel and that cannot be done in Python.
Sir, but for example, in GA1, there are two questions. It is written explicitly that for example, for Google Sheets question, this has to be only done in Google Sheet, and for Excel question, it has to be only done in Excel, or else it will give it different answers.
Okay, one second. So, mm, can you mention that question again? Can you share that specific question?
I have to share the screen.
No, no, just the question number and the GA.
Okay, okay. The question number is 5, GA1.
Okay, one second, give me a minute. Okay, this is question number 5, GA1. Okay, so question number 5 is. Oh, okay. You have a question here. Some take sort by. Um, Understood. So if you take this specific scenario here, uh, understood. This is clear. So anything with respect to Excel or spreadsheet tools, which is basically Google Sheets or Excel, there is a clear mention that you have to work only with 365. Okay, I think this requires certain detail. Please raise this as one of the posts in discourse. Okay, we'll consider
Sir,
how we can handle
okay.
that programmatically. Yeah.
Okay, sir, regarding the GitHub CLI that I had asked.
Mhm.
So so basically it is also written in the uh, project 2 post that is given by the Anand sir, that we have to use Vercel for the API. So I don't think we can do like uh, using the GitHub CLI uh, like this in Vercel.
Mm,
We have to use some VPS from, I think, DigitalOcean or somewhere, because I don't think Vercel will allow these things. Like it will be also, there are so many things that can be heavy on the Vercel server and they may not allow this. Like for example, we have to run a LLM in some questions, and we have to also use ngrok for some public URL. I don't think we can do this in the Vercel.
okay. I think that's a fair point. I understand. So GitHub CLI actions may not be directly controlled by Vercel deployments. Understood. Okay, I think I'll again. Please raise these items in the discourse link. This is a fair question. We wanted also to revert back on specifics how to handle these scenarios. So whatever we have raised so far is fair questions, and we just want to understand how, or we'll get back to you on this how the specific approach methodology for this scenario. So scenarios like where you use a manual intervention of tools using GitHub, Excel, or with respect to the browser tools. I think browser tools again it's JavaScript, so you can still have like a document query. But nevertheless, my suggestion is please add it to a discourse post. We'll get back to you on how the evaluation script is being built.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. Any other questions? Yeah. If no more questions, I think we can wind up the session. And please put all your questions with respect to the project 2 in the discussion query. I think, yeah, there is one from Ishan. While evaluation, the evaluator will post a request for a specific question from any of the GAs. Hypothetically, he picks a question from SQL from of SQL from GA. The GA question has some specific parameters and a specific file. So do we need to write the script according to the question of the GA, such that the question picks up the specific answer of the GA, or do we need to make it flexible for the evaluator to change? Obviously, it should be flexible for changing the parameters and the file. So to be clear, the GA itself is randomized. So not everyone gets the same set of parameters and same set of files. So that has to be parameterized. Absolutely. So that the question logic will remain same. Let's say something like what we see in ROE, or going back to GA. Let's say there is two files and you have to find out common or unique rows between two files, or common rows between two files. In these scenarios, your logic is basically a single logic that considers all the rows and finds out which is common. Whereas the files can be parameterized so that it can be random according to the evaluator. Okay. So going back, please raise all the specific questions with respect to project 2 in discourse thread, and we'll follow up on the very specific questions which you asked on how to handle external tools with an LLM agent which we are going to build, something like GitHub, Excel, Google Sheets, and developer tools. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'll wind up the session.